Cage, Episode 1, Moment of Truth. We are finally into the third Marvel Netflix series. We have the first half of our Heroes for Hire duo with Danny Rand, or Iron Fist, coming in, I believe, next year. I know they're already filming. I don't know if it's officially going to get released next year, what the deal is with that. But we have Power Man, Luke Cage, and I like this first episode. This, every time they do one of these shows, I always wonder, how similar is it going to be to the other shows? And it was clear that this was going to be different. Of course, we have Daredevil, and then we had Jessica Jones, which was more of sort of a mystery thing, and now we have Luke Cage, which clearly focuses on black characters, and it's in Harlem and everything like that. So I was really curious, how different is it really going to play out? And watching them, like, man, I really enjoy how different it is. Like, they always make them so different, because that's the one thing I always think about. It's like, man, they're really good, but it's like the main running theme is that they can always be dark, on Netflix. And I'm like, are they going to be so dark that they end up blending together? And every time I watch a premiere, I'm like, nope, still totally different from the other two shows. So I was glad to see that it was very different. The style was different, the feeling was different. The way they, the characters, all three of these main characters have very different struggles, and they live in very different, sort of communities and have very different lives. And that really played through in this. We have Luke Cage. And when it started off, honestly, I was kind of curious. I was like, I can't tell if this is a flashback or it was just him before everything went crazy, or if this was actually the present. But it turns out to be the present. He's just working with the dude at the barbershop. He's, sweeping and stuff. And they're just talking about basketball and, just whatever. And as things kind of continue on, we get to meet our main villain, and we get to see some of the other, players throughout the series. And it seems like there's going to be a bit of an element of mystery in this, because we have, of course, a bunch of the characters, I don't know any of the names yet. We have the woman who's a cop, and I feel like what she was doing at the club was very interesting, because they kind of sent her undercover, and that seemed to kind of be her job in this first episode when she's at the bar. And I of course thought, I think like a lot of people, she's doing something illegal. She gets called in at night and she's in this dress and stuff. I didn't think she was a prostitute, but I was like, she's doing something that's like crazy and dangerous. It just turns out that she's like an agent, and that's why it's so dangerous, and that's why she gets called in, like the middle of the night. So I was like, okay, that's a nice twist on that. And then, we have our main villain, who also happens to have ties with, I believe she's supposed to be like the mayor, basically, of Harlem at this point. And I was like, alright, I like that idea too, because you can tell they're related, and they have, she mentions during one scene when they're actually in the club, she's like, I haven't forgotten our family legacy, it just kind of sucks. Like, it's not exactly the best legacy in the world, and you're kind of continuing that on, and I'm trying to, like, make the city better as, like, this public, this amazing public figure and stuff like that. And I was like, I like the idea of kind of two sides of the same coin. Like, they're both related, they both care for each other, and she doesn't say, like, you need to stop doing this and stop doing that. She doesn't exactly approve of it, but she's, she even says, like, she did some illegal stuff. Like, I used, taxpayers' dollars and all this other money to help you basically make this club solely for this deal, which didn't end up panning out. And I could end up being, screwed over now, with an audit, which I thought was kind of funny that they did that, because the excuse the woman had, who was a cop, she was like, oh, I'm an auditor. And I was like, it's kind of funny that that happened to be her lie, and it was like, then they brought up the audit thing later. I was like, it just seemed weird to me, like that was just a random lie, and they kind of just threw it in there. But I like the connections of the characters. It's a very tight-knit community. That's something you can tell. Like, I love the character, Pops, who's at the barbershop. And they have that scene, and this is probably one of my favorite scenes actually in the whole episode, when he's just talking with Luke Cage, and it's just him as an older guy trying to be like a pillar of the community. Like, I basically just, that's how you get them on your side. You just have them run errands and sweep up hair, let them play video games here, because them being here is a way better distraction than anything that's out there that could, get them killed or get them sent to jail or have them, end up killing someone else, just that struggle, of life. And I was like, I love this scene. It was just that guy, it was just this older guy trying to help his own community and trying to help the kids by doing, random little things and, like he said, get them on his side. And saying that he knew exactly who killed the people, at the big deal. Basically, like 30 minutes after it happened, he's like, a bunch of people called me, and that was pretty much it. And he knew exactly who did it. And I was like, I just like that idea, where he's so connected in this community, and he's just, you know, such an important figure, which I think this is a big thing. Even when the trailer first came out, I was like, oh man, I hope he doesn't end up getting killed, because that's always kind of the thing in the shows where somebody's in danger, you know, that knows the main character. So he seems like the guy because he's just that random older guy. But I really enjoyed his character. I liked all the characters, to be totally honest. I really liked the villain. He's very calm, you know, he's calm and collected and stuff, and he's somewhat similar to Fisk in that regard, where he's calm and collected, but him being angry isn't like Fisk being angry, where Fisk kind of reverts back to when he was a kid and he like almost mentally just loses his mind. This guy's totally different. He's calm, and like during the scene when he's beating up the guy, he's like, look, I already found you. We got your half of the money. All you have to do is tell us where your buddy is so we can get his half of the money and everything's good. And when that starts off, he's like slapping the guy and he's like, you know, I don't use a closed hand on a woman. And then when the dude spits on him, he's like, good, now I can actually hit you like a man. That idea, I was like, that's just interesting. That's like really a weird evil sort of thing. It was like, you know, he considered him to not really be a man and stuff, even though he like robbed him and stuff and killed his guys and all this other stuff. And then, you know, he spits on him and he laughs. And he's like, all right, now I can do this. And he beat the crap out of him. And it reminded me of Fisk in the first season of Daredevil when he smashed that guy's head in the car. And it just made me think of that. Except he's just punching him and blood's just all over him and stuff. And he's like, all right, you know, get him out of here. So that in itself was just really nuts. I was like, all right, I like him because he's super calm most of the time. But when he loses it, he loses it. And it's like this one big mission. We also have whoever Diamondback is. I don't really know them from the comics. So we have, you know, I would assume another kind of gang leader. So he sends in this dude Shades, who we also find out towards the end of the episode with, you know, this tight-knit community. He was in prison with Luke, which I assume that was before Luke had the experiment happen. So we get that little quick flash where, you know, Luke used to know him from prison, and maybe that guy assumed he was dead. Maybe that's why he was freaking out, like, you know, he didn't recognize you and stuff, because maybe they all thought that he died, you know, from that experiment, and he kind of just took off after that. But, you know, we have this secret organization, basically, you know, we just know this guy Shades, and then we have, you know, that flashback with him, and then the little flashback of Luke being like kicked on the ground and stuff when he was dreaming. And this is something super random, but I feel like everybody does this in TV. Whenever an actor is bald, whenever they do a flashback, they always have hair. I feel like that's every TV show I've ever seen. They always do that. Like, some person is like bald either by choice or, you know, not by choice, whatever. Whenever somebody ends up bald, every flashback, they always have hair. Like, every TV show I feel like I've ever seen, the flashbacks are always like, look at that full head of hair that they used to have, and now they're bald. And it's like, I don't know why they always do that in TV, but, you know, I noticed that when he was on the ground. I assume it was definitely him being kicked, but it could have actually been someone else. Like, he may have been one of the people kicking, because they don't actually show anyone except the person on the ground, and I just assume it was him. But I just thought that was funny. I was like, they always do that in TV. Whenever somebody's bald, it's like, look at this flashback. Just flowing locks or, you know, afro or whatever. They just have hair now. And it's like, they could have been bald back then too, but they never are in flashbacks. But I really enjoyed this first episode. It's, you know, it's a simple start. I don't think it was like, you know, a crazy epic first episode or anything like that. Like, you know, thinking back on, like, I think Daredevil episode 1 had like the crazy fight scene at the end of the first episode and stuff. And I'm just a sucker for action, but each show is different, and that's why I'm totally fine with this not having like a crazy action sequence and stuff. And they have the action scene at the end of the episode, which I believe was in the second trailer, because the first trailer had him like going through the house and all that stuff, or the apartment building. But I like how they played with this. I like how everything's playing out, and he has, you know, these former connections, and he freaked out, you know, over seeing Shades and stuff. So, you know, who knows, you know, what the deal is with that, like why that's such a big deal for him seeing this guy that he used to go to prison with. They have a ton of references, of course. Pops calls him, like during the scene when they're in the basement, he calls him Power Man, which is one of his other names, which you rarely ever hear him called Power Man, but that's like his thing. They also, like at the end of the episode when I want to say the Connies, the people on the restaurant, they want to hire him. The wife, she's like, you know, we want to hire you, and he's one of the heroes for hire. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. That was a nice little way to, you know, throw that in there. And of course he says, I'm not for hire, because they're going to have to save that for later. But I like that. It was just a nice little way to kind of throw that reference in there. Of course, they talk more about the incident, as everyone calls it, in the Netflix shows. It's like the incident, and they have the dude. I was surprised they didn't already have this, but they finally got the person selling fake DVDs because they didn't have that in Daredevil or Jessica Jones. But they finally had the person in New York selling the fake DVDs and stuff, and he's like, and it wasn't even just fake DVDs. It was like he was selling DVDs of basically compilations of footage, raw footage from the accident in New York. So I thought that was interesting. He names all the different people. He names like the big people, of course. But I was like, that's kind of cool. They finally put that in there, and I thought that was just funny because that is a big thing in New York. Just in general, you go anywhere in New York and you'll find somebody trying to sell you some movie. It may be fake, it may be real. You never know. But I thought that was cool that they had that. I'm liking this so far. The first episode was pretty cool, and we got to, a ton of characters. I was surprised by how many characters actually got introduced because, like, Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I feel like have a much smaller cast of characters. And maybe it's the same amount, but they just introduced everybody all at once, and maybe that's why it seems like so many people. And they did kill off the one of the guys who stole the money because they were all in there and they were clearly important parts of the first episode. But the one guy's dead. I assume the character Chico is going to end up being killed off as well. So that'll kind of shorten it just a little bit. But it felt like there were a ton of characters that got introduced, and I'm sure some of them won't actually be that important, but I like this first episode. I'm definitely excited to get into the rest of the series, of course. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about this first episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite part, your least favorite part. And with this being the first episode and them kind of just throwing everything in there, and this also being the third series before we get to, I was going to say the final, but they've announced that Punisher will have his own series, so it's not even the final series when we get Iron Fist or anything, so that won't even be the last one. But I want to know how you guys feel this episode, and it's the first episode, but the series so far at least compares to Daredevil and Jessica Jones, because I think it's really good. I like what they did with it. Of course, one of the big things about this character, he is a black character, and he's in Harlem. That's been a huge thing about his character. It always was. That was kind of the point. He's like a black dude who can't be shot or killed and stuff, and they do put some references in there and stuff to, like, not just him being black, but to, like, black culture in general, because they talk about Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, are they really going to do that or not? But they definitely put that in there. It was like a quick second, and it was kind of the typical political thing. So it was like, hey, that's just a politician saying that. But it was a black politician, and it probably would have been a huge impact if it was a white politician. But I was like, all right, they put in like Black Lives Matter and stuff, and they have, with it being Harlem in general, there's certain words because the characters are black that they drop in here quite often, which I don't know if people were expecting. This is also the one that pushes it as far as they possibly can, because they don't do nudity in these shows, but this is as close as we've ever gotten, because they have the strip club stuff, and they have like the women wearing pasties. I was like, this is definitely the closest they've ever gotten to showing like full-on nudity, because we've had sex scenes like Jessica Jones. They had like crazy sex scenes, but it was always just it's from the back, so you never really see anything. And this was like, this one, they had a bunch of strippers, and I'm like, okay, that's how they got away with that. Because at first I was like, holy crap, they're gonna like show breasts in this, and I was like, oh, okay, they have the pasties and stuff, and that's how they'll at least make it a little bit safer. I'm sure some parents still won't want their kids watching strippers and stuff. But I was like, okay, that's how they're going to get away with that. But this one, at least as far as non-violent stuff, because we've seen some of the crazy violent stuff that they pushed, especially Daredevil Season 2 with Punisher. This is like the sexual side of stuff that they're really pushing. Like Daredevil Season 2 pushed the violence. This one, I think, is really pushing the sexual side of stuff, and they're showing way more than they've ever shown, but still keeping it censored, no nipples, which... It's society. It's such a weird thing. It's like you can show everything, but just put an X right there, no nipples. But I like this first episode. Like I said, I'm very excited to get into it. Like I said, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this premiere, and how this stacks up, at least as far as a premiere episode, how it stacks up compared to like the first episode of Daredevil and the first episode of Jessica Jones. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about just the episode in general, what you like, what you didn't like. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.